This new lecture, we are going to talk about the variation in the properties like thermal conductivity and thermal diffusivity. We are going to start with the definition of thermal conductivity. We'll study its variation, then we'll discuss about thermal diffusivity and in its variation. This is Professor Nitin Birud. Thermal conductivity is a property that already you have seen that in Fourier's law of conduction, there is a constant of proportionality, and this constant of proportionality was named as thermal conductivity. The different materials having different storage capacities. So we can define the property called as specific heat as a measure of material's ability to store the thermal energy. Its capacity to store the energy is expressed by this term called as specific heat. For example, specific heat of water is 4.18, unit is kilojoule per kilogram degree Celsius, and specific heat for iron is 0.45 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. Both are taken at same temperature, say room temperature. You might have noticed that the specific heat of water is higher and specific heat of iron is almost 10 times lower, which indicates that the water can store almost 10 times more energy than iron per unit mass. Means for 1 kilogram of water, if you take 1 kilogram of water and 1 kilogram iron, and if you want to use it for the storage of thermal energy, then water is a better choice comparatively because it has got more value of specific heat compared to iron, which has got lesser value of specific heat, and that's why the storage capacity for water is more, and water is a better option as a thermal energy storage device fluid. Likewise, thermal conductivity is a measure of material's ability to conduct the heat. Means higher specific heat, more is the storage capacity. In same fashion, I can say that higher thermal conductivity, more is the material's ability to conduct the heat through it. Faster is the rate of conduction. So higher K suggests higher or faster rate of conduction through the given material. For example, conductivity, I'm taking the same materials. Conductivity for water is 0.608 and 82.2 for iron. Okay, so water here, now you can see that thermal conductivity is far less as compared to the thermal conductivity of iron. It means that water is not a good conductor of heat as compared to iron, which indicates that iron conducts heat almost 100 times faster than water can. Means although the water has got good storage capabilities, it has got inferior conduction abilities. So it cannot be used as a medium for conducting the heat. Means where high rates of heat transfer are expected, your choice would be to go for iron, not to for water. So that is what how we can differentiate between this good conductor and a bad conductor. Thus, water is a poor heat conductor relative to iron, but water is an excellent medium to store the thermal energy. So this is how we can select a material as per our requirement. If you are searching for a material whose material for storing the heat, then water is a good choice. If you are searching a material for conducting the heat, faster rate of heat transfer, then iron is a good choice. So depends on the characteristics, we can select a proper material which is suitable for that given application. Then thermal conductivity is can be defined as the rate of heat transfer through unit thickness of the material per unit area per unit temperature difference. This definition is obtained from the Fourier's law of conduction. So if you rewrite the Fourier's equation in, in terms of conductivity, it will be like this. It will be rate of heat transfer per unit temperature difference, unit thickness, that is dx, of the material per unit area, that is area A, and per unit temperature difference, that is dt. So if you rearrange the terms of Fourier's law of conduction, we can write the definition of this property called as thermal conductivity. So of course, we have seen in the last slide also that higher value of thermal conductivity indicates good thermal conductor, good heat conductor, and lower value indicates a insulating material. For example, copper and silver that are good electrical conductors are also good heat conductors. Now why? Because let us go back to the mechanism of heat conduction through the pure metal. The heat is getting conducted in pure metals because of the presence of free electrons. Same is the mechanism of electricity conduction through the metals. Means the mechanism which is responsible, or the flow of free electrons which is responsible for electricity flow, the same flow of free electrons is responsible for the heat flow. It means that a good conductor, a good electricity conductor is going to be always a good heat conductor. And on the same logic, copper and silver, they are good heat conductors, are good electric conductors. They are also a good heat conductors and vice versa. All the pure metals are possessing this type of characteristics. This is a table which shows the thermal conductivities of different materials taken at room temperature. You can see diamond is having highest thermal conductivity and it is of the range of 2300 watt per meter degree Celsius. In case of metals, silver is the topper with 429, copper around 401, gold 317, aluminum 237, iron, mercury, glass, bricks, and all those you can see. Now, if you take a look at this diamond, although it has got highest thermal conductivity, and silver has got high thermal conductivity, gold is also having high thermal conductivity, but these materials cannot be used as a material of any heat transfer devices simply because of their cost. Diamond, which is very costly, silver is also very costly, and gold is also costly, and because of their cost, their use in these heat transfer applications is restricted. And you might have observed that most of the heat transfer devices are either made up of copper or aluminum. Aluminum is preferred because of its low cost. Copper is preferred because of its formability. It can be changed into shape very easily. And then as an insulating material, there are many like wood or rubber, glass fibers. You can see the thermal conductivity values are too low, and these materials can be used as a thermal insulating medium. This is a simple picture which is showing the determination of thermal conductivity experimentally. What we can do is we have to use a heat generator, that is electrical heater in this case, and that heat is whatever heat is generated in this generator is allowed to transfer through a medium whose thermal conductivity is to be determined. The area of that material is known, the thickness of the material L is known to us, and if you know the value of Q, that is the rate of heat transfer, then we can use the Fourier's law of conduction simply and find out the thermal conductivity of the material. So this type of simple experimentation allows us to find out the value of thermal conductivity of the materials. And in the laboratory work, it is expected from you to work on similar kind of systems for different types of materials and to determine their thermal conductivities. The thermal conductivity hierarchy chart is shown in this table. You can see that at the highest level in this chart, there are non-metallic crystalline solids, diamond, graphite, then silicon carbide, beryllium oxide, quartz. These are non-metallic, but their crystal structure are so orderly. See, if you go back to the first lecture, second lecture, in the second lecture I told you while discussing about the thermal conductivity mechanisms in solids, I told you that in solids there are two types of mechanism. If it is metal, then the flow of free electron is responsible for the conduction. If it is non-metal, the lattice vibration is responsible for the conductivity. So lattice vibration is or is going to be effective if the atoms of that metal are arranged in a orderly fashion, and this is what is happening in the structure crystalline subjects like diamond, graphite, silicon carbide, quartz, all these things. Although they are non-metals, their crystal structure is orderly, and because of the orderly crystal structures, the the lattice vibrations can travel at a faster rate, and that's why their thermal conductivities are higher. They are closely followed by pure metals, then they are followed by metal alloys, then the non-metallic solids, then the liquids, then the insulating materials in that, and then finally the gases. So if you see the hierarchy of in the type of subjects substance, then the solids are having higher thermal conductivity, followed by liquids, and finally for the gases, the lowest thermal conductivity is possess. So this is how the thermal conductivity hierarchy is can be defined for the different types of materials. Now we'll see the variation in the thermal conductivity values for different types of aspects. As per the kinetic theory of gases tells us that conductivity, that is thermal conductivity, K of gases is proportional to square root of absolute temperature. See, K is proportional to square root of absolute temperature of the gas. This is a direct proportion, whereas K is inversely proportional to the square root of molar mass m. Means K for gas is proportional to temperature and inversely proportional to the molar mass. So the gases whose molar mass is higher will show lower value of thermal conductivity, and the gases whose temperature is higher will show higher value of thermal conductivity. The example is the conductivity of gases increases with increasing temperature and decreasing molar mass. The example is conductivity of helium, whose molecular mass is 4, is much higher than air, whose molecular mass is 29, and argon, whose molecular mass is 40. So higher molecular mass, lower thermal conductivity. Helium, lower molecular mass, that's why it is possessing higher thermal conductivity. The thermal conductivity of gases is independent of pressure. This is very important because in normal or natural systems, or in artificial systems also, whenever we are trying to find out the rates of heat transfer, we have to come to a particular value of thermal conductivity, and its variation has to be accounted into the problems. Now if you are in a position to find out what is how the thermal conductivity is varying with respect to temperature and how it is varying with respect to pressure inside the system, then it gives us a very clear cut idea about the calculations, and it makes our calculations more easier for the rates of heat transfer. So thermal conductivity of gases, we can say that it is independent of pressure in the wide range of pressures encountered in practice. So we can ignore the variation of thermal conductivity with respect to pressure in most of the real life problems, but we cannot ignore the thermal conductivity variation in temperatures in with respect to temperature, and that's why we have to have some account for counting this variation into the problems. Unlike gases, most of the liquid conductivity decreases with increasing temperature. So it was directly proportional with temperature in case of gases, whereas exactly opposite nature is there for the liquids. The liquids, it is inversely proportional to the temperature. With water is a notable exception. Water is showing the similar approach like gas, that the thermal conductivity of water is directly proportional to the temperature. Higher temperature, higher thermal conductivity. Like gases, the conductivity of liquid decreases with increasing molar mass. So, in case of liquid, I can say that thermal conductivity is inversely proportional to both temperature as well as molar mass. Liquid metals like mercury and sodium, they are having very high thermal conductivity. Although they are liquids, they are metals, and because of their metal characteristics compared to the other liquids, the liquid metals are showing better high heat transfer characteristic, that is better, higher thermal conductivity values, and that's why their use is suitable for the applications where higher rates of heat transfers q are expected. So when we are expecting more rates of heat transfer, you can go for the liquid metals. In solids, the heat conduction is due to lattice vibrations and free flow of the electrons, and that's why K of the solid is obtained by adding the lattice and electronic components. We have already seen this in the last lecture also, that Kl plus Ke, both when we are adding them together, we'll get the total value of the thermal conductivity of a given material. The lattice component is strongly dependent on the molecular arrangement. Already I have told you while discussing about the diamond, and that's why diamond is having highly ordered crystalline solids, and that's why it has got highest known thermal conductivity. Unlike metals, which are good electrical and heat conductor, crystalline solids like diamond and semiconductors are good heat conductors but poor electrical conductor. Once again, I would like to remind you that electrical conductivity of any metal depends on flow of free electrons. In case of diamonds or other crystalline solids like semiconductor materials, quartz, the the graphite, the thermal conductivity is higher, but electrical conductivity is poor because of absence of the free electrons. And as a result, these materials, this type of crystalline solids like diamond and quartz, can be used in the electronic industry, wherein high heat transfer characteristics are desirable but poor electrical conductivity is also desirable. So this is how the applications or the material can be selected for different applications. Now we'll see about the alloys. The thermal conductivity of an alloy means combination of two metals. If you are combining two metals at different temperature, they can mix together and form a third material called as alloy material. If two metals are alloyed, then the thermal conductivity of an alloy, the product of two metals, is usually much lower than the either metals. Means thermal conductivity of parent metals are different, alloys are different. It is found that as compared to the parent metals, the alloys are showing lower value of thermal conductivity. Even a small amount of pure metal of foreign molecules that are good conductor themselves seriously disturb the flow of heat in these metals. So even if addition of very small amount of impurity, or you can say foreign materials addition or forming of alloy, that will result into the reduction in the thermal conductivity of the pure metals. The example is here. You can see that a pure metal like say copper, whose thermal conductivity 401, nickel, another metal whose thermal conductivity is 91 degrees Celsius. Now, if you mix them to form a alloy constantan, which contains 55% copper and 45% nickel, you can see the thermal conductivity value. It is much lesser than the parent metals. This is can be shown in this example also. Copper has got higher thermal conductivity 401. Aluminum, it is equally good thermal conducting material 237. The commercial bronze, which is 90% copper and 10% aluminum, is having only 52 as the value of thermal conductivity at same room temperature. Another example, conductivity of iron and chromium are 83 and 95 separately, and the conductivity of chrome steel containing 1% of chrome is only 62. So this shows that the thermal conductivity of an alloy is always lesser than the parent metals. The thermal conductivity of the materials vary with the temperature. Already you have seen that. Now how this variation occurs, let us see. This is how it occurs. You can see that for diamond, as the temperature is increasing, there is sharp reduction in the value of thermal conductivity, whereas in case of the aluminum oxide, the polyethylene acid, clear quartz, helium, air, argon, so different materials are shown, solids, liquids and gases, and their variation in thermal conductivity is plotted in this table, in this figure. Now here you can see that another table is shown, that the thermal conductivity of materials vary with temperature. How it is varying? It is tabular form. At 100 Kelvin, copper has got thermal conductivity of 482. At 200 Kelvin, if the temperature is doubled, that is having 413 means copper's thermal conductivity is getting reduced at higher temperature. At 300 K room temperature, it is 401. At 400 K higher temperature is 393. 600 K 379. 800 366. Means as the temperature is increasing, the thermal conductivity of copper is reducing. Now, this is happening for all the types of pure metals, wherein thermal conductivity is inversely proportional to temperature, because as the temperature increases, the molecular vibration increases, and that molecular vibration increase results into disturbance in the flow of free electrons, and which is resulting into reduction in the thermal conductivity of pure metals. So pure metals are showing a characteristic that the thermal conductivity reduces with temperature. In case of all the non-metallic solids, the thermal conductivity is directly proportional to the temperature, because the thermal conductivity in non-metallic solid depends on the lattice vibrations. Higher the temperature, more the vibrations, and better is the thermal conductivity. So for non-metallic solids, you can say that the thermal conductivity is proportional to the temperature, whereas for metallic solids, it is inversely proportional to the temperature. The thermal conductivity of certain solids exhibit dramatic increase at a temperature near absolute zero. And when these solids are getting converted into superconductors, the example is, sorry, example example is copper. Copper at temperature of 20 K, the thermal conductivity increases up to 20,000 in comparison with its room temperature value of 401 degree Celsius. The temperature dependence of K, that is thermal conductivity, causes considerable complexity in the conduction analysis. When we are analyzing the any conduction problem, then we have to pay attention to this variation in the thermal conductivity. And if the variation is too complex, means if the variation cannot be converted into simplified form of equations, then it will result into more complex analysis of the thermal conduction problems. And that's why what we are doing, there is a common practice to evaluate K at an average temperature. I mean, suppose in a system there are two temperatures involved. One is say 300 Kelvin, the other is say 400 Kelvin. So when we are selecting the thermal conductivity, we are not taking it as 400 K or 300 K, because at both the temperature the values are going to be different. So it is a common practice to take it at the average temperature, that is 300 plus 400 divided by 2, that is 350 K. So we will take the value of thermal conductivity as 350 K and we'll use as a model value for the entire problem, and we are going to treat it as a constant. So in this way we can avoid, means now the thermal conductivity is uh, treated as constant, so it will reduce the complexities in the problem. And although of course, because of the assumption that the thermal conductivity is constant, there is going to be some error in the calculations, but that error is negligible. In heat transfer analysis, material is normally assumed to be isotropic. Isotropic means it is having uniform properties in all the directions. Means thermal conductivity is same. For example, thermal conductivity is same in all the directions. Suppose we are talking about a Cartesian coordinate system. There are three directions: x, y, and z. So thermal conductivity in x direction is equal to thermal conductivity in y direction is equal to thermal conductivity in z direction. If a material is there who is possessing this type of characteristics, can be called as a isotropic material. And normally we are assuming that all the materials are isotropic in nature, means their properties are not changing with respect to direction, they are constant with respect to direction. This assumption is realistic, it is not something which is fancy. It is realistic in most of the materials except those that exhibit different structural characteristics in different directions. For example, wood or composite materials. Wood is having different thermal conductivity across the grain and along the grain. Okay, so parallel to the grain, different value of thermal conductivity, and perpendicular to the grains, the value of thermal conductivity different. In such materials, this variation has to be considered, and we cannot assume them as an isotropic material. But most of the other materials can be assumed to be isotropic. In our analysis, whenever we are going to solve the problems in entire topic of heat transfer, we are going to consider that all the materials are isotropic in nature. This reduces the complexities in the problem considerably, of course, with some error, but that error is negligible and can be ignored. Now we'll talk about second property, thermal diffusivity. This is going to be the part of the equations in heat transfer. Next lecture, we'll talk about three-dimensional conduction equation. There is we are going to encounter with this property. It is better to define it and understand the meaning of thermal diffusivity. So, thermal diffusivity is very simple to understand. Let us see this. The product of rho is the density, and specific heat Cp. Rho, that is density, and specific heat Cp. This product is called as heat capacity of the material or storage capacity of the material, storage of thermal energy. Both specific heat and heat capacity rho Cp represents the heat storage capability of the material. Already we have seen in the first slide itself that specific heat itself is the indication of storage capacity. Higher specific heat indicates better storage capacity. If you multiply this Cp value by rho, then we'll get a term called as rho Cp. This is also indication of heat capacity of the material. What is the difference? When we are talking about only Cp, it is giving us the idea about the storage capacity per unit mass. See the unit, joules per kilogram Kelvin. So it is the storage capacity of the material per unit mass. When you are multiplying by the density unit is kg per meter cube. So that kg and the kg in specific heat unit is going to get cancelled, and the unit of this rho Cp is going to be joule per meter cube Kelvin. Means rho Cp represents the heat storage capacity in terms of volume. How much heat is stored per unit volume. That is going to be the indication obtained from this term rho into Cp. But Cp expresses it per unit mass, whereas rho Cp expresses it per unit volume, and it can be noticed from units joules per kilogram Celsius and joules per meter cube degrees Celsius respectively. The thermal diffusivity, which represents how fast the heat diffuses through the material. See the wording. The thermal diffusivity, which represents how fast heat diffuses, flows, get sprayed through the material. Diffuses here means spreading. How fast the heat is getting sprayed into that material. That is defined in a simple, very simple equation. See, thermal diffusivity means alpha. It is the ratio of heat conducted divided by heat stored. So thermal conductivity is K and heat stored is given by rho into Cp. So thermal conductivity divided by rho into Cp. Now you might have noticed that thermal conductivity itself is a property, rho is a property, specific heat is of the property. So thermal diffusivity is ratio of these properties, and that's why it is also a property of the system. Note that thermal conductivity in the numerator represents how well the material conducts the heat, and heat capacity Cp, rho into Cp represents how much energy a material stores per unit volume. So conductivity K indicates the the heat conduction capacity, rho Cp indicates the storage capacity. Therefore, the ratio of both is of a material can be viewed as a ratio of heat conducted through the material to the heat stored per unit volume. So, thermal diffusivity itself indicates that it is the ratio of heat conducted through the material to the heat stored per unit volume. Means, in other words, I can say that higher the value of thermal diffusivity, higher value of thermal diffusivity indicates that the conduction is faster and the storage is less. Means higher thermal diffusivity material is a material who can conduct the heat at a faster rate and who can store the heat at, or whose storage capacity is less. On the opposite side, if a material is having lower thermal diffusivity, it means that it is a better option for thermal storage and not a good option for heat conduction. So depending upon the value of thermal conductivity itself, we can select the material for the given application. A material that has got higher thermal conductivity or low heat storage capacity will have larger value of thermal diffusivity. Larger the alpha, faster is the propagation of the heat into the medium. A small value of alpha means heat is mostly absorbed by the material and a small amount of heat will be conducted further. So storage is more and conduction is less. The values of thermal conductivity for different materials are shown in this table. The thermal diffusivities are shown in this table. The thermal diffusivity of some materials at room temperature, you can see at silver it is 149 into 10 to the power minus 6, and for wood it is 0.13 into 10 to the power minus 6. You can see the note the difference. Silver very high value of alpha, whereas wood has got a low value of alpha. Between there are different, of course this is not the entire list of materials, there are many more. I'm just showing you some representative materials. So in this lecture we have studied what is the meaning of thermal conductivity and how it is varying with respect to temperature particularly, and what is the meaning of thermal diffusivity and how it is varying for different materials. So this is a lecture in which we have studied about the two important properties which are essential for the further analysis of the thermal systems. Thank you very much.